Hello, my friends. Today we'll start with the fact that the Verkhovna Rada has ratified agreements with the US regarding rare earth minerals, and Trump made a statement about it.
Earth deal with Ukraine. That's been fully ratified and approved by their legislative branches. And so we appreciate that. And I'll be speaking with the president in a little while, a little bit later. And we appreciate that. But the deal is all now signed up and ratified. And we have access to a massive amount of very, very high quality.
As you can see, this is a major step toward ending the war because now Trump has a vested interest in a ceasefire. Meanwhile, Vance has already stated that if Russia doesn't make concessions, the US will walk away from the talks. Russia cannot expect to be handed territory it has even conquered yet, said J.D. Vance in an interview with Fox News. He emphasized that the US wants Ukraine to remain a sovereign nation. Russia can't count on getting territories they haven't even taken yet, and that's what they included in that initial peace plan. Vance noted that even having Russia and Ukraine in dialogue is progress, but Washington knew from the start that Moscow's first offer would be too much. How events will unfold, we'll see very soon. And the conversation between Zelensky and Trump has already taken place.
I just spoke with President Trump. It was a good conversation, very warm and constructive. We congratulated each other and our nations on Victory Day in World War II. We talked about how to bring about a real and lasting ceasefire at least for 30 days. That could open up many chances for diplomacy. Ukraine is ready for a full ceasefire starting today, this very moment. 30 days of silence. But it must be real, no strikes, no rockets, no drones, no hundreds of assaults along the front. The Russians must respond appropriately and support a ceasefire. They have to prove they're serious about ending the war. This isn't the first time we've offered this. 30 days that could mark the beginning of years of peace. A long, reliable ceasefire would be the real sign that we're moving toward peace. America can help with this. The world needs America now just like it did 80 years ago.
After that, Trump publicly called on Russia and Ukraine to agree to a 30-day truce. We hope a workable ceasefire agreement will be upheld, and both countries must be held accountable for respecting the integrity of these direct talks. If the ceasefire is broken, the US and its partners will impose further sanctions. Thousands of young soldiers are dying every week, and everyone should want to stop that. As president, I will stay committed to ensuring peace between Russia and Ukraine together with our European allies, and it will be a strong peace. This ceasefire must ultimately lead toward a peace deal. It can all be done very quickly, and I will be available at any time if my help is needed. Thank you for paying attention to this matter. Friends, what do you think? Will Russia agree to a 30-day ceasefire? Be sure to share your thoughts in the comments because they keep claiming the reasons for the conflict haven't been addressed, and that's why the war continues. And now let's turn to the situation on the front lines and see how this supposed 3-day ceasefire is actually going. We'll start with the border. Near the village of Tetkina, Russian forces continue to claim that the Ukrainian forces are carrying out offensive actions. In response, Russia says it's trying to stop them by leveling the entire village. They launched missile strikes on the area. The Russians claim they eliminated a large number of Ukrainian troops, but based on video footage, Ukrainian forces were positioned further down the street, and the strikes actually hit a different part of the village. In any case, it's clear that the Russians are trying to destroy the area just to prevent any possible Ukrainian advance. We are still waiting to see how the situation develops. In the Sumy and Kursk directions, the results from the first day of the ceasefire have started to come in. According to reports, the Russians carried out 11 assaults yesterday. So clearly, there is no actual pause in hostilities there either. However, no changes to the front line have been recorded. The Russians are still failing to push Ukrainian forces out of Russian territory. In the Kharkiv direction, the situation has slightly improved, but over the past 24 hours, Russian forces still launched 4 assaults near Vovchansk. Ukrainian soldiers on the ground are also reporting that fighting continues. A ceasefire in the Vovchansk direction. Honestly, everyone already know it's meaningless, but I'm sharing this for situational awareness. Some of the guys are trying to find patterns between occasional lulls in certain areas and the ceasefire rhetoric. But in our discussions, we've concluded that these are just random occurrences along the front and aren't actually connected. In the Kupiansk direction, there are no new reports of Russian assaults, and the situation remains stable. No changes have been observed along the front line. In the Borova direction, there have been no new reports of Russian assaults following yesterday's attacks. Those previous assaults were unsuccessful for Russian forces, and the situation remains unchanged. In the Lyman direction, the General Staff reported 21 assaults. Attacks were reported on the villages of Kolodyazi, Рідкодуб, Новий Мир, Ольгівка, and Дружелюбівка. However, just like before, no changes have been observed in this area, and Russian claims of capturing Lipove haven't been confirmed. In the Siversk direction, 5 assaults were reported over the past day near Bilogorivka and Verkhnyokamyanske. However, Ukrainian forces successfully repelled all attacks and no changes on the ground have been recorded. In the Chasiv Yar direction, the General Staff reports 6 assaults in the central part of the city and specifically near Pretechene and Bila Hora. So far, there are no changes along the front line and all attacks have been successfully repelled. In the Toretsk direction, 7 assaults have been reported. There were attempts to break through near Sherbinivka in Toretsk and near Delievka. Romanivka is also under attack, but so far there have been no new changes. Russian sources claimed yesterday that they had broken through to Alexandropol, but the Ukrainian side hasn't confirmed this information. In the Pokrovsk direction, the Russians carried out 55 assaults over the past day. We hope today will bring some calm here. Attacks were recorded on Novoalexandrivka, Удачне, Kotline, and Zvirove. They pushed toward the outskirts of Pokrovsk and stormed Lysivka, Myrolюбівка, Малинівка, Yelizavetivka, and Nova Poltavka. Near Nova Poltavka and Novoolenivka, the Ukrainian side has yet to confirm any Russian gains. However, unfortunately, Ukrainian forces have already published videos showing Russians being destroyed on the outskirts of Nova Poltavka. Clearly, the assaults are continuing and the Russians are struggling to secure control. But the fact that they're already entering the village is very concerning. And just so you understand the seriousness of the situation, a Ukrainian soldier shared details overnight. So, the Kostiantynivka direction. Fighting continues for Nova Poltavka and the outskirts of Yelizavetivka. The Russians are making gains. Vodina 2 has once again been lost. Berezivka lost. Alexandropol Upper lost. The Russians are sometimes pushing as far as Malinivka. In short, there is not much left before they reach the critical line of Rusin Yar, Alexandro Kalinove. I honestly don't see what could stop the Russians' advance right now, this means that in May the Russians will likely capture that line and enter the summer with favorable positions to launch the Kostiantynivka operation from the southwest. In the Kurakhove direction, the situation around the villages of Kotlярivka and Troitsk remains uncertain. For the second day in a row, Russian forces have claimed successes in the area and, as of yesterday, stated that they had captured both Kotlярivka and Troitsk. However, so far there are no confirmed changes, and the Ukrainian side hasn't corroborated those claims. Meanwhile, attacks have been reported on Oleksivka, Bohatyr, and Odradne. Ukrainian forces have shared some grim details about their current situation. Nova Poltavka direction, Bohatyr area. The Russians managed to clear and take control of the southern part of the village. They are now moving into the eastern part, gradually taking residential buildings. From their side, no one is following this so-called ceasefire. We're not children to believe in fairy tales or freeze our defenses on their terms. That's utter nonsense. We didn't invade them, they invaded us. So let them meet our conditions. Of course, the Russians won't do that, so the war goes on despite the difficult situation along the entire line of contact. Both sides are now actively using FPV drones and heavy artillery. Unfortunately, this statement confirms earlier reports by Russian war correspondents from a few days ago that their forces had already broken into Bohatyr. On geolocation maps, the village outskirts are now marked as a gray zone. However, based on Ukrainian resources, the real situation appears to be much worse. We now await official statements on that matter. The key concern is whether Russian forces will exploit the so called ceasefire to make a more substantial breakthrough along the front. In the Velika Novosilka direction, assaults were recorded in Vilne Pole as well as near Novopil and Previlne. Other than that, the situation here remains stable, with Ukrainian forces successfully repelling all attacks. In the Zaporizhzhia direction, Russian forces carried out assaults on Sherbaki, Stepove, and Kamyansk. However, these attacks yielded no gains, and the situation on the ground remains unchanged. In the Kherson direction, Russian troops are reportedly preparing for a large scale assault on the right bank of the Dnipro River, but over the past 24 hours, no significant movements or changes have been observed in this area. And that's all from me. So please don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell to stay updated on all the latest news. Thank you for watching, and see you next time. Bye bye.